Hello everyone, welcome to this short practical AI course. In this course, we're going to explore the different types of AI. So there's generative AI, AI automation, and all of these AI agents which are all around the internet. The important thing to understand here is we are trying to understand the difference so that we can categorize AI tools and also understand which AI to use for what purpose. So the most common one, like I said, is generative AI, and this is the creator. ChatGPT is a great example of this. So what this does is it generates text, images, code. You give it a prompt, it runs through a large language model which has been trained with a lot of data, and then at the end the output that you get is an image, a text, or a video as well. And these are the different tools like Midjourney and so forth which allow you to do this, right? So it has been fed with a lot of data sets. It's basically tapping into the data sets, and then based on the pattern learning, it's creating something new for you, right? So you give it a prompt, it runs through the LLM, it gives you an output. That's generative AI for you. When it comes to AI automation, basically you give it a series of steps which are predefined. So you've told it, if this happens, do this, do this, do this, blah, blah, blah. And it does exactly that, right? So if you look at all of these use cases of N8N, for example, if someone has a business, they have a CRM, if a contact is created, get the email address, validate it, send a message to Slack. This is a simple workflow. And this is where all of these AI automation agencies, they come in, right? So they say, if you're a business, if you're a small business organization, you do all of these things manually. We're going to do all of this stuff. We can automate it. So if you look at any of these, you'll basically get a lot of ideas of what this automation looks like. Now, automation isn't new per se, right? So when people talk about automation, it's like anytime you give a series of steps, people have used Zaps in the past, people use make.com, N8N, and all of these tools allow you to automate. But this AI actually doesn't think for you. You give it the rules, you set the rules, and it just runs the rules on your behalf, right? So you give it a trigger, if this happens, do this. It checks the logic. Okay, this has happened. These are the next steps. Anyone who's familiar with Zapier, this is exactly what it is. And then finally, it acts according to your instructions. So it's great for these simple repetitive tasks, but it's not going to make decisions on your behalf. Now, a lot of people who run automation agencies or who are into AI automation actually call this AI agents, which is not technically exactly true. AI agents are much better than this. They're more powerful than this. So let's go to AI agents next. These are the problem solvers, right? I'm opening this presentation. If you see the link, this is manus.im. This is the AI agent that actually created this presentation for me, right? And ChatGPT created the slides outline for me. So this is a generative AI that created the slides outline, while Manus actually took the outline and then went through a series of steps, decided the steps by itself. I did not say do this, do this, do this. I'll show you the steps in a moment. And then it came up with this beautiful presentation, right? It could be beautiful to some people and not so beautiful to others, but this is what it came up with, right? So AI agents actually solve such problems, and I have replaced someone who was doing this for me in the past with Manus. So someone was actually taking this kind of slides script for me and then putting it into a Google Slides or Canva and then creating something like this, which is now done by an AI agent. It acts, it plans, it adapts. Sometimes it faces an issue and it solves the issue by itself. You don't really have to tell it, this is how you solve it. In some cases, better than human, right? So the capabilities are to self-correct, which is something that makes it much more powerful. And it's very different from an automation where it's like, there's a series of steps. And oftentimes, if you've used these automation tools, you'll see if it runs or encounters an error, that's the end of it. That's the error. The automation doesn't run. It skips a field, skips a column, so forth. It's very predefined steps. This is like, okay, I'm going to decide the steps to get the user what they need, right? So you give it a goal, you just like have to give it a high level goal. And it's like your team manager or your assistant or your VA in some sense. It plans the steps by itself and then it executes the action. And you can always adjust and talk just like you would do, adjust the output of a generative AI like ChatGPT. You can also do the same thing with agents, right? So this is how these things compare. So you have your generative AI where the main role is to create content. You have your AI automation where you have to automate a series of tasks. This is where you can do a AI automation services agency kind of thing. With generative AI, you can use it in different applications. If you just start using ChatGPT on a day-to-day basis, you can see it just applies to anything where you have to generate a specific kind of output. And agentic AI actually can solve problems, it can make decisions, right? So the intelligence level is basically with generative AI pattern-based, it's been fed with a lot of data. AI automation is rule-based, it doesn't have that much intelligence. If you say these are the rules, it's just going to follow those rules. That's about it. And agents, they can reason. They can actually reason and decide, no, I'm not going to do this because this didn't work. Instead, I'm going to do this. So imagine it's actually running its own computer and it actually does open its own computer and work for you, versus an automation where it says, this is what the user has asked for. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work because I'm just going to stick to these steps, instructions or rules, right? So very high autonomy when it comes to agentic AI. Now, agentic AI versus AI agents, they are the same thing. Agentic AI is a concept that you can create AI agents. But AI automation and AI agents are not the same thing, right? So that's an important distinction to make because people who are into AI automation, they love to use whatever terms are trending. So if AI agents are the trending term, they'll just use it for themselves, right? Examples, we have ChatGPT, the biggest example of generative AI. We have Zaps, Make for AI automation. You have AutoGPT, which is very good for marketeers as well. Devin, which is good for coders. It actually codes, solves the coding problems on your behalf. Of course, you can generate code with ChatGPT, but Devin would go many steps further than that, solve problems with the code. You don't have to talk to it constantly. So that's how the generative AI and AI agents are different, right? So once you understand this, you can choose based on your needs. So let's see a few use cases from the real world. You're a content creator, or let's say you're a business owner. You want to create some blog posts, blog content, social media content, graphics, video scripts, maybe video with VO3 and so forth. All of that is generative AI. You have business ops. You want to automate your email. You want to automate any operational stuff in your business. All of that is AI automation. You want to actually do market research, find what your competitors are doing, create, multi-step presentations or content, or solve problems where you don't even probably know the steps to solve the problem. Think of this as, at least for now, think of it as your virtual assistant. If you look at a few steps of automation, it's an AI automation that will run through those steps, but the agent will actually decide the steps and say, oh, these steps didn't work. Let me create a new set of steps, right? So that's how it's very different. So based on what you're looking at and what you want to achieve, you can now decide the kind of AI that you want to use for that. And you can very easily categorize tools. So let's go back. I'm going to show you this particular example, right? So in this case, I used the content that I got from ChatGPT, which is generative AI. And then I gave it to Manus. And I said, okay, let's figure out what to do with this. So I didn't give it the steps. Manus decided that I will read and analyze the content. I will initiate the presentation. I will create the content for each slide. And then I'll finally give the slide to the user along with this content, right? So it decided the steps on its own. So those are the 3 different practical use cases of AI and kinds of tools that you need to know about. With that knowledge, I hope the landscape of AI is more clear for you. If you want more tutorials like this or any specific category of AI, let me know in the comments and I'll make those for you. Thank you.